Well, to discuss the ceremony in a bit more detail, I'm joined now by ABC reporter Manny Tsigas. Now, Manny, as we've heard there, this was only the second time in Oscar history that the ceremony was hostless.
That's right, Yvonne. One of the most common criticisms that always come out of the Oscars is the host. They always get crucified by the critics, whether it's Anne Hathaway and James Franco or Hugh Jackman or Seth MacFarlane. This year they were going to go with comedian Kevin Hart, but he pulled out after several of his previous tweets resurfaced featuring a lot of homophobic slurs and the like. So in the end, it was just a voiceover and some very slick camera work that just kept things moving between all the presenters. It was very much an ensemble cast.
Had to rely on a lot of entertainment, didn't they?
That's right. So there were a lot of some very light-hearted gags, obviously a few serious moments here and there. Yeah. Keegan-Michael Key there and Melissa McCarthy laughing it up with the audience. And it was a very self-aware ceremony as well. And the response overall has been quite positive. So a lot of people have been saying now without a host, it lets the ceremony breathe a lot more. People are allowed to, say a lot more in their speeches and so forth. So and it also played to that narrative that's currently going through Hollywood about having different voices and different faces and having everybody included.
Well, let's talk a little bit about diversity. I mean, the Oscars in the past has been criticised for being too white and lacking that diversity. How did it go this year?
It was very strong throughout this year. Both the supporting actor categories went to African-American stars. There was Regina King for If Beale Street Could Talk and Mahershala Ali for Green Book, which ended up winning Best Film. Here you see Black Panther, which is a superhero epic that's got a mainly African-American cast that won 3 awards for costume design, production design and its score. There were various films steeped in messages about inclusion and diversity. As you can see here, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, one of 2 animated films that's received quite a bit of recognition for that. So that ensures that the next generation will see a lot of different faces as well. And then, of course, there's Roma, which you see here. This was actually tipped to win the biggest award of the night. It ended up walking away with 3 pretty big ones, though. Best Director for Alfonso Cuarón, Best Cinematography and Best Foreign Language Film. Now, obviously, if it did get over the line and win that Best Film Oscar, it would have broken down a couple of barriers there. Obviously, being a Netflix picture, it would have been the first film that didn't have a traditional cinematic release to get the award, and it also joins a very small list of films that were up for both Best Foreign Language Film as well as Best Film, but obviously didn't get the big one.
It was talked about so much in the lead up to the Oscars, wasn't it? But the film that did win, Green Book, there was a fair bit of controversy before and after the ceremony. Tell us about that.
There was. This one needs a bit of backstory. So in 1989, the director Spike Lee made a movie called Do the Right Thing, which was about simmering racial tensions in a Brooklyn neighborhood. Many consider it his best film, and despite all the films that have come out since then in the past 30 years, a lot of people still consider this one his best. But the thing is, that particular year it didn't get nominated for Best Film. But what did end up winning was this movie here, which is Driving Miss Daisy, directed by Australia's own Bruce Beresford. And it's a lot more of a palatable film when it comes to race relations. It's about an elderly, rich white woman played by Jessica Tandy who befriends her African-American chauffeur played by Morgan Freeman. So fast forward 30 years and here's Green Book, which is another palatable film, which is set in a car. It's about race relations. This time it's based on a true story about a black piano player who is driven cross-country by a white driver during the 1960s in the Deep South. So this is pre-civil rights, and obviously a lot of racism is dealt with in this movie. Now, Spike Lee hadn't openly criticised this film, but Green Book has been faulted for having a white protagonist, despite being about the struggles of the African-American people. And also the piano player in the film, Don Shirley, his family came out saying that the film was inaccurate. So now we're at the Oscars and Green Book just wins Best Picture. Now, if you look here, I believe, I just need to step back a bit. So that there is Spike Lee. So you can see just that little, that little purple dot there. What happened was he was so visibly upset with the fact that Green Book won Best Picture that he actually got up out of his seat and tried to leave the theatre, but he was stopped. He was escorted back to his seat, but instead of sitting down, he actually stood there in the middle of the aisle and turned his back while the ceremony was still going, while the acceptance speeches were still going. So a little while after that, he appeared backstage for a press conference, and here's what he had to say.
I'm snake bit. I mean, every time somebody's driving somebody, I lose. But they changed the seating arrangement.
I believe that was his 8th glass of champagne for the night.
Yeah, it sounded like you had a bit to drink there.
Yeah, but it wasn't all bad for Spike Lee. In fairness, he did actually capture his first ever Oscar award after such a stellar career. Granted, it wasn't for directing; it was actually for Best Adapted Screenplay for his movie Black Klansman, which was a fantastic film. It got a huge reaction from the audience as well. Obviously, a very long time coming.
Oh gosh, so many films there that I do want to see. Thanks so much, Manny, for coming in. I guess the Oscars were hostless, but they definitely weren't without all the drama.
Good times to be had by all.
Thanks, Manny.